All right, we are going to get started. Thank you all for coming. I'm just going to give some quick updates. We are doing this meeting in the council chambers so that we can record it. So we are recording this meeting, there's presentation, and we're also live streaming on the internet and also channel 28. So whenever you have a question or comment tonight, I'm going to bring the microphone to you so that we're always able to be heard by those either listening live or who may watch the presentation later on. So thank you for that. And when you do use the microphone, you want to place it pretty close to your face, because if it's down here, Jeremy can't hear us. So I'm going to go ahead and let Kim Cook, who's the chair of our Yountville Arts Commission, she's going to give you a welcome and introduction.
Good evening. On behalf of the Yountville Arts Commission, thank you all so much for coming here tonight and showing your interest. Many of you have been with us through this process for the past year, and we sincerely appreciate your help in selecting a fine art installation for our town. We can be proud of what we are accomplishing, and we can be proud of how we have done it. With the community behind us, we kept pushing this project forward, and when we presented with options, you have guided us towards where we are today. We presented many styles of the murals to you in a survey, and you chose abstract over representational subjects such as vineyards and faces, and you definitely did not want a typical billboard-style mural. During the next step, we presented the different artists, and you chose Sophia and Hennessy's abstract and interpretive style of art, with emotion and color, over two very different specific styles that were also more representational. The process has brought us to where we are tonight. Tonight, Sophia and Hennessy have brought us 4 magnificent designs to choose from, embracing all that Yountville has to offer, the nature, the beauty, and the joy that color and art brings to our lives. They are giving the choice back to us once again, and the choice for our town. This is an exciting and eventful moment. There is no hurry to vote tonight unless your choice is clear, as is mine. Let's consider the designs presented by our amazing artists and choose the one that will bring us happiness, that will make us smile, and make us proud of our community and our involvement together every time we drive through that underpass. A fine art installation worthy of our town. So ladies, would you like to start?
Yes. Thank you, Kim. We are very excited to be here tonight. We recognize some of you from our presentation in January, the artist selection presentation, and some of you were at the Arts Commission meeting on Monday. But for those of you who we don't know, I want to just kind of quickly introduce ourselves, and we're going to share with all of you the project that we completed since we were last year presenting in January, just to get you a little caught up on what we've been up to besides working on designs for your town. So my name's Hennessy Christoffel, and this is Sophia Lachin, and together we are LC Studio Tuto, and we work collaboratively to create large-scale, site-specific pieces of art to bring life and identity into often anonymous spaces. And the whole point of what we do is to really encourage a deeper, more meaningful connection between people and their environments. And the two of us have been working together for about 10 years now, and in that time we've created over 70 installations throughout the country. And tonight, first we just want to share with you Bright Underbelly, which is the project that we completed in March of this year. So this is our mock-up for the Bright Underbelly project, and it's a 70,000 square foot stretch of freeway that we transformed with art because it's the site of the largest certified farmers market in all of California. So it's a really amazing community asset, but that just really didn't reflect that. And so we created, this is our design, it's the 2 spans of freeway with the sky separating the two. So this view is sort of like you're looking up. And you see that we've created this kind of canopy using blue sky-colored paint that transforms the concrete into branches and leaves of sycamore trees that once grew on the site. And you can see how the mural actually goes through all 4 seasons, so it transitions from lush, leafy summer branches to barren winter branches. And once we built up this kind of sky blue canopy, yes, in our very glamorous scissor lifts with yellow lounge chairs, once we built up this canopy, we added in 25 different species of local wildlife all throughout the mural. We placed them in the areas, the seasonal areas where you'd be likely to see them in the area. And so, and the last detail, which we found to be conceptually and visually important, this kind of frame is the lunar cycle for 1 year, so that kind of holds together the 4 seasons. And so this project, this is a dinner we held under the freeway once we completed it. This project, it took a very blank, concrete, anonymous space, not unlike the current state of your underpass, and we reflected something about that local, that community, and we really turned it into more of a gathering place and something that the community could be proud of. So...
Okay, so since we were here in January, we've been working very hard to come up with designs that we feel would really capture some of the beauty and spirit that Yountville has. And we really are looking forward to transforming the underpass of the Veterans Home Memorial Bridge. So just to give you a little background on how we work, in our design process as site-specific artists, we were able to put out a short and simple community survey that I hope you were able to participate in. So we really looked into those words that you provided us and tried to understand where you were coming from and really worked with that as inspiration. We researched the history of the land, the history of agriculture and winemaking in the region, and perhaps most importantly, we really considered what would be the most beautiful and peaceful way to engage your imagination. So, now we'd like to share a little bit of feedback that we received from the community survey. So, first question, what are words that come to mind when you think of Yountville? And you told us beautiful, food and wine, sophisticated, and peaceful. Some of our favorite responses that weren't necessarily the bulk of the responses, but we just thought they were great, were blooming, magical, elegant, and hungry.
We asked you how you want to feel as you move through the underpass space. And your most common responses were happy, welcome, peaceful, home, and proud. And then to add to that, a few that really stood out to us that we loved were curious, not decorative, no cutesy stuff, reflecting that Yountville is one of the most unique places in the world, and that you want to smile every time you pass through.
And then lastly, we wanted to know what is special about Yountville that isn't so well known? You guys are arty, very friendly, and that people live here. And some of our favorite responses were that it's always beautiful, no matter what time of year, that you'll meet people from all over the world, and that there are longtime families, very long generational ties to this place.
Okay, so now we're going to go into the designs that we have prepared for you. So the plan was we were going to create 2 or 3 mock-ups to show you for you to choose from. As Kim mentioned, we got really into this project and we have 4. So we're going to share those with you now. Each one is very different in the look and concept. And as we go through them, I just want to invite you to really pay attention to the emotional responses you have to the imagery and the stories. I especially encourage you to think about, not necessarily the one that kind of keeps bringing you back, you want to look at again and again, because this is a piece that you're going to see over and over again. And so we really think that the piece that really draws you in and makes you curious, pay attention to that. And then it's a little difficult, but we want you to try to imagine being in this space with these two, murals on each side spanning these nearly 100-foot walls. So really try to imagine these as larger-than-life paintings, not just more graphic designs that you'll see today. So we're going to show each one. It'll be two skinny rectangles, and that's the design for each wall. And then we'll show you an image of it kind of mocked up in the space to give you a better idea. So we'll start with our first design, which we've called Influence of the Earth. And this design was very much inspired by your request to feel happy as you pass through the space. Happy was by far the most common response to how do you want to feel when you pass through the space, which, that's what a lovely concept. And so this design was really meant to reflect feelings of happiness, joy, openness. We were particularly interested in the idea that these are all emotions that human beings experience when we feel connected with nature. And so, although this is an abstract painting, there's elements of it that almost come together as a very loose landscape. So there's this kind of cool, watery blue, these earthy tones, kind of colors that are evocative of harvest and wine. And we've got these long, continuous strokes that will go through the tunnel. And so, even though it's a very vibrant painting, there's a sense of ease, there's kind of a soothing quality to it. And I also love how these long strokes kind of mimic the motion through the tunnel. So we are, we're really into the idea of color and how it affects our emotions. But for this piece, we wanted to add another layer of meaning to it. So if you look, it's very faint in this depiction, but very thin. This little detail, it's right about at eye level, and it's down the center of each side of the design, is a passage from Walden by Henry David Thoreau that says, "Live in each season as it passes. Breathe the air, drink the drink, taste the fruit, and resign yourself to the influence of the earth." And when we heard this, we just felt like it connected for us in Yountville in this beautiful way that, as one of the residents described, Yountville is a place that is beautiful all year round. And so we know that to live in Yountville is to feel connected to nature, and that you all understand how to really appreciate the different gifts that each season has to offer. And so we love that this design, passing through in a car, you'll just get this warm, colorful rush of color by you. But if you're coming through on a bicycle or as a pedestrian, this text will become legible, and you'll get this deeper layer of meaning with this piece.
Okay, so the next design is called Vayat's Zor, which is one of my personal favorite titles. As we all know, wine is a very important part of the culture and community in this region here. And wine happens to be also one of our most enduring ties to our very distant past. So Vayat Zor is a region in southern Armenia which pretty recently there was a cave that was discovered containing relics of winemaking from 6,100 years ago. And so we were just very blown away as this beverage, this liquid that really ties us back that far in the past. This piece is very visually layered. It has layers of drawn kind of botanical imagery of oak leaves and grapevines and very earthy layers of color. And then over the top it has these very graphic metallic lines that kind of stream in from either end of the underpass. And we've layered these items to kind of try to communicate some of the unique complexity that Yountville has as a town. It's very beautiful. There's a very polished presentation, but behind that, there's all this work and effort and discovery and experimentation that's what makes this town competitive on a world stage, and it's what makes you a tastemaker. So we really wanted to depict that interesting combination that's so unique about this place. And we just also wanted to say on this one, I think, it's very earthy, and it really captures the idea that perfection isn't always beautiful, that we feel what creates real lasting beauty is when you create something that keeps you coming back. It invites you to look at it again and again and discover something completely different every time.
Okay, so our next design we titled The Memory of a Tree. And this design was very much in response to, we got a lot of feedback that you want to feel peaceful as you pass through this space. There's also a lot of ideas of home and community and generational ties to the land and the agriculture. Those are all things that came up in that survey. And so this design, we felt like, using the symbol of the oak tree, it's a beautiful symbol of home in that, not only is it an important native species to this part of the world, but it is habitat for all kinds of critters. And so, in a way, it's this important community maker in the natural world. We also thought of oak trees with their long lifespans as really holding the history of this place. So they've bared witness to all kinds of things. I mean, looking back into history, the oak trees have seen the Native Americans and the gold rush and prohibition and Yount planting grapevines here for the first time, and all of these things that have happened in this region that have led up to this point where Yountville is this beautiful, vibrant community and destination that it is today. And so this design, the way it looks in this space, it's very soft and layered. We kind of were thinking about that idea of all of these memories that are held within these trees. And memories aren't crystal clear and crisp. They're soft and kind of ephemeral. And so that softness is kind of translated into this design. And we also used a lot of these cool blue tones that look very harmonious in the shadowy environment of the underpass. And we wanted this piece to feel sort of like a soothing, peaceful, shadowy refuge from sunny Yountville.
Okay, and our last design is called Clay Earth. And Clay Earth, we wanted to tell the story about the evolution of land in Yountville. So the top design, which will go on one side of the tunnel, has silhouetted oak leaves. And on the opposite side of the tunnel, you have these silhouetted grapevines. So it really tells the story of the transformation of the landscape. And over the top of this very graphic clay color and jet black, you have this gold layer. And over the oak design, it has the dappled light, which is the light that a tree produces, that an oak tree produces. And over the grapevines, you have these really long kind of beams of light. And throughout the piece, you'll notice some little details and pops of color that are native birds to this region.
So those are our 4 designs. We'll kind of scroll through them again in the space. So Influence of the Earth, Bayat Zor, The Memory of a Tree, and Clay Earth. So now we really just want to open it up to any questions that you might have about any of the designs. And again, yes, Samantha's going to come and bring the microphone so that they can hear you on the recording.
Well, I think you young women have done a splendid job of presentation as well as the actual artwork. We are from the Veterans Home, the 3 of us, Sharon, my husband Ronald, and I'm Pat Trammell. We've been in the business of art for 45 years, so we're not exactly newcomers. Actually, we retired 20 years ago, but you know how it is when you're an artist. That bridge is a commemorative bridge, and historically in the papers everywhere, even in the Library of Congress, there is not one mention of the Veterans Home. We have 2,000 Civil War veterans buried in our cemetery, as well as the, Afghanistan, Korea, the Second World War, on First World War. I think we need some mention. I know we're running late, but we're old, and old people run late. There's got to be some mention in this artworks, which is very, very important. That alludes to the veterans and the fact that we live here, and the fact that you wouldn't even have this art project if it weren't for our veterans. And we do invite you to come and see. We have an art show of our own that we do. We invite you to come on our grounds and to speak with some of the men and women and find out what we're all about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we feel that it's a true honor to create art for the Veteran Home Memorial Bridge, and I think something that we think is really important as public artists and as site-specific artists is to create work that relates to the culture of a place, and that is most definitely a huge part of the culture of this town. But it's very important to make something that anyone can find a piece of themselves in, that anyone can come in from either the veterans home or the town or a visitor and feel that they can relate to the piece. And I think that's why we love to focus on elements of nature, and that's why we really worked a lot with your verbal feedback and words like peaceful, happy, kind of broad emotions that we all desire.
I do think, too, with this, we'll want to have a plaque, some signage with this piece, and I think maybe putting that title, that it is the commemorative Veterans Home Memorial Bridge, because I don't think it says anywhere on the structure that title, and I think putting that on there would be an important way to honor that connection.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to compliment you both on the way you sort of poetically, capture your art in words. I felt this way in January when you presented. You guys are really articulate, and you take, inspiration, and you can speak it, and you can also execute it in your artwork. But kind of segueing a little bit from the woman that just spoke, I was wondering if you took into account the fact that there are some transitions that happen at the various ends, bookends, if you will, of this passageway. We have both our veterans home and the Domaine Shandon, graphic that you see from that side of the underpass, and on the other end you have the Veterans Park that has its own sort of vibrancy and splendor. And I guess I don't necessarily see this as a segue between, or any of these pieces, any of these representations, as necessarily a segue from these two bookends that are already in our town, and that to me kind of capture a lot of the vibrancy of that general area of our town. So I'm wondering if I know you had the survey to kind of leverage some of the verbiage that people articulated about the town, but I'm wondering if you thought about the transitions that are being made from one end of the underpass to the other end of the other underpass that are already there and living and have a vibrancy of their own.
Yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more about kind of, in your mind, what would be a transition that you would imagine?
I'm not an artist.
Oh no, I don't expect you to describe a fully thought out mural, but I'm just wondering when you say that.
Yes, well, I kind of see each of these representations as art pieces in and of themselves. I don't see a continuity that they represent between the spaces that are already there. And I, as a bike rider or as a driver, and I walk up to the Veterans Home regularly, I kind of, there will be, it's a passageway for many of us who live here, both from driving and riding our bikes or walking. And so I'm just sort of thinking, like, for example, the one you have up right now doesn't seem to well, excuse me for saying this, but it doesn't seem to necessarily fit with the imagery that is already existing at the opposite bookends of the town. Now, I don't know whether that is intended, but you intended that, or whether you took that into consideration, but it just doesn't, for me, have that continuity that I might have thought could have happened, as you look from one end of what's there now to the other end of what's there now, and then you see what is being proposed for in between.
Right. I think we really try to look in terms of what can we bring that is kind of a new, that will bring something new to the space. I think, there's different philosophies about art, and I think there's some approaches where it's more directly visually reflecting what is there. I think the way we look at it is, there's such beauty and such vibrancy around this space that we didn't want to try to recreate that. We wanted to bring something that felt very different and new to that area.
And I would just add to that, it was about, I think, what we worked with in our design process was capturing kind of the energy and the feeling and what the community had to say about the town rather than specifics, so that no one feels left out. Because if you're coming from a different place, it might not be as clear of a transition as it is to you. And I would be interested in learning more about kind of what I guess more specifically you feel would be a good transition between those two spaces. Because that's an interesting point. And thank you for your feedback.
Anybody else? I thought someone else had their hand up. No? No other comments or questions?
Any one of the pieces that you've shown in your presentation this evening would look marvelous in here. And if you can talk them into it, you can get this as a project. And possibly the rest of the building as well, because it's very, very unique.
I just wanted to just voice my appreciation for this connection that you made between what has been part of the coming up through the oak tree and then what is now through the grapevine, because I think as a community we struggle to maintain what has been and what we think has been the best part of why everyone loves it here, and this sort of march into a new era. And I think that it's really great to have that sort of commemorated through nature, through the oak tree, which we in Napa Valley have declared that that's an important thing to us, and through the grapevine, which is obviously an economic importance to us. So I really love especially that part of your process.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? I know it's scary, but it's right.
I was going to try to get through
okay.
that saying anything. People know I can't do that. Definitely. I would just like you to comment on your thoughts related to the shade and light and how it affects the underpass and why you've chosen the colors you have and the designs. It goes a little bit to what Myrna was saying about the transition. As you see in this picture right here, you can tell on the west side you're going to have that afternoon sun. You're going to have it on the east side in the mornings. How do you factor all of that, the fact that it's going to be shaded all the time, basically? How do you factor all that into you using some like the dark clay, the dark brown, and it makes it very dark versus the vibrancy of the other colors? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, there's a few different ways to go on that, and I think, with this first design, for example, this one is all about color, and these colors, colors really pop when they're in this sort of open shade environment of the underpass, so that's kind of, embracing that color in this first one. With these next two, particularly this one has a lot, Viet Zor has a lot of the gray tones, which I think will look very harmonious in the space with the concrete. And then with the metallics really pick up light beautifully in these, in this kind of open shade environment. With Memory of a Tree, I mentioned the kind of cool blue tones that will look very harmonious in this space. I think that really just melds very nicely together. And then with this darker version, the clay earth, there's kind of brightening up a space, and then there's sort of working with the depth that you get from a little bit of a shadowy environment. So this it doesn't fight the fact that it's a shadowy space. It kind of works with that, with the deeper colors. And this is this clay tone. We think it's a very, the black silhouettes obviously are dark, but the clay color is a very nice medium tone, which really is a very vibrant way to work with color in a shadowy environment. So I think that will have a lot of vibrancy. And then this, as a little bit of a darker design, we made sure that this one had that kind of metallic aspect all throughout to be picking up light throughout the tunnel. So light was definitely something we considered with each of the designs.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, we've spent a lot of time in tunnels, I should say underpasses, in our career. 10 years, we've seen a lot of underpasses. And honestly speaking, that underpass has so much reflected light, and it's such a short and high underpass that the light level is actually quite beautiful. And I couldn't ask for a better light on my mural, to be honest with you. It's more challenging to paint something in direct sun. You lose a lot of contrast, you lose a lot of detail, but when you're in this environment, like Hennessy said, with open shade, it really allows for details to come out, and it's quite beautiful.
Anybody?
Question. Can you guys read for us again that beautiful quote that you're proposing for the first one? And how tall would the letters be?
It'd be right at eye level, so about 6 feet. I think we want it to be more of a whisper, something that as a pedestrian or a cyclist you would see. So I think probably something around 5 inches.
Okay, and that quote again is, "Live in each season as it passes. Breathe the air, drink the drink, taste the fruit, and resign yourself to the influence of the earth."
And I think before this wraps up, I think we just want to voice how honored and how thankful we are to be able to design and create something for this beautiful town. And I think it takes a lot of trust to turn over an underpass to 2 artists. And I just want to say that we really appreciate the amount of trust that you've put in us. And we really welcome feedback and input.
All right. Anybody else? Steve wants some.
I also want to add on behalf of the town and the town council that we have a major renovation and update to Veterans Memorial Park, and a lot of the emphasis that the council has put on for staff. They've asked us to look at how to make the facility more user-friendly. We're focusing on an improvement of the plaza and the connection, and we're really going to be focusing on our history with the veterans in the redevelopment of Veterans Memorial Park. And the redevelopment project will be coming to the council in early August for their action. And the council's been very directive to make sure that they want to see some visual changes, because one of their observations was that it's named the Veterans Memorial Park, but it doesn't necessarily tell the Yountville story. So I think what I want to share with you is within the concepts that the council's provided direction on, there will be an art pad for veteran produced or a veteran-themed piece of art. This will be a commissioned piece of art, and there'll be an opportunity for the Arts Commission and the Veterans Home community to be involved in the jurying and the selection. This will be a permitted installation. Ultimately, we'll come back to the council for approval, but both the town council, staff, and the Arts Commission really do believe that something either of an artist who is a veteran or representative. So that's going to be one of the elements of the redevelopment project at Veterans Memorial Park. The other element is we're going to be putting in interpretive panels that are going to be more reflective actually of the unique relationship between the town of Yountville and the Veterans Home of California. Many, many communities have a Veterans Memorial Park. The name is almost synonymous because there are veterans living in each and every one of our communities. That is not necessarily what makes the Veterans Memorial Park in Yountville unique. It's that relationship dating back to the 1880s with the Veterans Home that does. And that is one of the key elements that we're going to be working on with that design. So I just wanted to let everybody know, and especially the veterans, we've been working really hard to try to get a meeting arranged to go over the concept, but that is something that our Park and Recreation Advisory Commission, the Arts Commission, and the Town Council have really been focused on. Is here we have an opportunity to really do something unique for the veterans in respect for that. So I just wanted to kind of share that with everybody so that those in the audience understood where it was going. And again, I just have to say, it's been shared, and as a person that's a process, as a town manager, I'm a process-oriented person, so I have to admit, many folks, when we go in a community engagement process, at times it's challenging because that means everybody is letting go a little bit. And that sometimes takes us out of our comfort zone. So the hope is that a community, we come together and people will see something in this that's reflective. And just sort of to kind of wrap up a little bit of the process, I'm going to have Sam explain how our 2-week voting process is going, and also the fact that we will really be, once the voting and the tabulation is done, then we'll be having a joint meeting of the Arts Commission and the Council to review and develop the final contract, work with the artists because we have to provide some direction. There may be some tweaking on concepts and some conversations, and then ultimately we'll move forward. I'm also going to put a plug in for any of you that may be interested in providing a little donation towards the program. We would encourage you to particularly look at that. The Town Council has provided upfront $25,000 in funding. The Vine Trail Coalition has funded another $15,000, and several individuals, some of whom are in the room and some others, we've raised about another $8,000 just through the online. So I really would encourage, because that also makes it of the community and from the community is when we participate in it. So with that, I'll let Sam talk about the really neat, exciting part that go forward.
You covered it. No. So the kind of where do we go from here? Steve covered a lot of it. So we do have some ballots here tonight if you're ready for that, or you could take it home sometime tomorrow, depending on how quickly I can turn it around. The presentation's going to be available online with the voting survey or the voting as well. So there'll be a live link where anyone who's not here tonight, or if you want to go back and review it, you'll be able to view the whole presentation by our artists through our website. We did stream live tonight, but then it'll also be available for you to look at again. So the online voting will be up for 2 weeks from Friday. If you don't have ability to vote online or you don't have internet access, we will have paper ballots here at Town Hall and also at the Community Center. And then, as Steve mentioned, we will be tabulating all of that information, and then the Arts Commission and the Council will have a joint meeting date to be determined, most likely the 3rd or 4th week of August, while they'll fine-tune all those details, and we'll be moving forward. And I'll just plug it one more time about the, if you're interested in being part of this, it's really an amazing project, and it's not something that will just be here for a few years. This is something that should last at least 50 years, but most likely more in our community. And so I think it's a really unique opportunity to be part of something that's going to last for a very long time. So we're here to answer questions. We're going to keep kind of rotating through the slides up on the screen, and then I'll hand out the ballots as well, and our artists are here to answer any questions. And you can always email yountvillearts@yville.com, or I think y'all know where to find me for the most part, or Steve if you have questions. We're here to answer them. Yes, Gary. Yeah. Is there a way to take the paper ballots, some of them up to the veterans? Absolutely. Just to make it, if we could have them here. Definitely. Yeah, we'll make that drop tomorrow. We'll probably put him in the member services office if you want to share that information. Okay. Yes, Mark. There are not currently provisions to light it. So that's something that we had looked at early on. That in and of itself is a whole nother animal, working with Caltrans to add electricity and lighting, and it's just not something that we were prepared to take on at this point, but that doesn't mean sometime in the future we may look at that. But for right now, it would be a daylight only intent, yeah.
This isn't what I was going to say when I wanted the mic, but to that question, people really cherish the dark night sky around here, and we did talk about that in the whole process, the process being 15 years or so to get here. So that's a sensitive topic about having a light impact. If there is something that is built in the future, it would need to be very subtle and not invasive. So it has been considered for sure. But what I wanted to say was it has been 15 years, I think, at least. And this process is because our Arts Commission, led by Kimberly Cook, our Park and Recs Commission, and the Town Council and the staff have finally made this a priority, not just a conversation. And it's been as inclusive as we can be with the community involved every step of the way. We're using the expertise of our commissions and our staff to bring these two amazing artists here to Yountville to represent our history and our future and our present. No pressure at all, right? But I'm just really proud that this is finally going to happen. It's been an idea that, oh yeah, wouldn't it be nice to do something, and then we forget about it. So it's been really, the Arts Commission has been pushing this for years, and so I just wanted to make sure that they got the recognition for really bringing this to kind of the home stretch. We'll get there very soon. We're not sure the timeline in terms of finalizing contracts and the actual fabrication, but you'll all be informed about all that. So I'm very proud of our community, the way it's come together, and all of our volunteers that have really made this happen. So I just wanted to say that. And I know Jeff Durham is here also. We're representing the council and the council members that aren't here right now, but as you can tell by what Steve said about our financial investment in this, we are prepared to reinvest into making this area that much more beautiful. But there is a level of participation and ownership that we want to encourage everyone to feel a part of it, not only in the design process, but in literally the ownership of the art. So Samantha really means it when she says she'd love to hear from you if you can afford to throw a few dollars into this project. But again, thank you all for your participation.
These out, and like I said, if you're free to vote tonight, if you're interested, there are all the categories, but we also added none in comments, so if that's something that you want to give feedback on. We have a mailing list which has over 150 people on it who attended our first meeting back in January. We're happy to add you to it as well if you want to keep updated on how the project is moving forward. So thank you all very much for coming. We really appreciate it. Yes, Devin. So we have a website just for this project. It's yountvillemural.com. Very simple, yountvillemural.com. And all that information's on there as well. Thank you.